Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
At Bennett Chevrolet, your vehicle will never be worth more than it is this month. That's a fact. Bennett will pay you top dollar on the spot and will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. No sales pressure, just top dollar for your trade. In fact, this month only, Bennett will pay you a minimum $8,000 for your trade. Let me repeat. Bennett will pay you a minimum $8,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle on our lot. No matter the condition or miles, even if your trade's a total wreck, it's worth $8,000 this month only. Imagine how much more we'll pay for a good quality trade-in. Get to Bennett Chevy and you could drive away in a newer vehicle with the same or even lower payments than you're making on your old vehicle. Plus, at Bennett, we have non-commissioned sales folks who are paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So there's never any sales pressure and never any need to negotiate. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Well, something to think about, for sure.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live as always on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Of course, if you have the 973 ESPN mobile app, you can listen to the show. You can get all the latest Eagles, Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, and high school sports local updates right there on the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. We got a lot to get to here on the show. Of course, Andy McNamara joins us every Thursday with the latest on what's going on with fantasy football. The NFL Week 2 starts tonight. Washington football team versus New York Giants. You can hear all the action right here, starting at 8 p.m. right here on 97.3 ESPN. And we will preview that game as well tonight, as well as the latest with the Eagles versus 49ers. I will get you the injury updates in just a bit. And, of course, I'll give you my FanDuel Sportsbook pick of the night for the NFL game tonight. And, of course, that pick is being brought to you by my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City, right off the boardwalk. Bet all the action and style this football season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Atlantic City. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So a couple updates we got to get to about the Eagles. And, of course, we have the Phillies starting at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, because 6 o'clock in the afternoon on September 16th is exactly the random time that we need. Looks like the bullpen game. Bedrock's kid, Cam Bedrosian, is starting for the Phillies, so we'll keep you updated as we are on air tonight on the Phillies game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, as always, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. And, of course, wherever you're listening to the show, on your radio, on your car, through the 97.3 app, watching online. We appreciate all of you joining us right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. So, to me, I mentioned this yesterday, as we start looking ahead to the 49ers game, the injury report is becoming more and more of a key to keep an eye on. And for the Eagles, it's looking more and more like the only position of concern is safety, because everyone who was resting yesterday was back at practice today. The only guys who were limited at practice were McLeod because of his knee, Epps because he's in the concussion protocol, Ertz due to rest, Avonte Maddox was being called a groin issue, Brooks because of rest, and then J.J. Arcega-Whiteside because of his ankle. Now, on the flip side, the team the Eagles are playing is really where the news is at, because it came out today that the 49ers linebacker, Dre Greenlaw, who is one of their better linebackers, he's a guy who pretty much plays almost every single snap, every single week for them, and he's been doing it for years. The news came down earlier today that Greenlaw is having a procedure to repair a groin/lower abdominal injury. It is not believed to be season-ending, according to Matt Barrows of The Athletic, but as a result, Aziz Al-Shair will take over on the weak side linebacker, and Demarius Flanagan-Flowers will move into strong linebacker. So some major shuffling on the 49ers defense. Also not practicing was Emmanuel Mosley, who has a knee issue. Remember, they're already without Jason Verrett. So there's a possibility that the 49ers are going to be without two of their best corners. Verrett's done for the year. Mosley's still not practicing. Greenlaw, one of their more consistent linebackers. Limited at practice today was Eric Armstead, D. Ford, Marcel Harris, and of course, Javon Kinlaw, who we have seen video now online of him doing some drills. Those guys were limited practice. So the defense for the 49ers is still banged up. And keep this in mind as we get closer and closer to game day. And of course, I will give you my final pick for the Eagles game as part of Football Friday picks tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. But as we get closer and closer to Sunday, I got to tell you guys, if we start seeing multiple defensive players not named Dre Greenlaw ruled out, because Greenlaw is obviously not playing because he's had surgery. But if anybody else is ruled out on defense, like Mosley or Armstead or Kinlaw or Ford or Harris, that's making the Eagles game a lot more interesting in terms of their chances of winning. Because I told you guys yesterday, when we first started the week, I was like, you know what? I thought the Eagles would beat the Falcons. At the beginning of the week, I was like, you know what? It was a great moment, but this 49ers team is a great team. Then the news started coming out Tuesday and Wednesday about the injuries. When I came on here yesterday at 6 o'clock on Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN, I told you guys, listen, I don't know if I'm not going to pick the Eagles now, because we saw the Eagles, who were themselves dealing with injuries last year, with a quarterback who couldn't get out of his own way, and they went to San Francisco and beat them. Now and by the way, that was on Sunday Night Football. So the Eagles got to wait until, quote unquote, Sunday night, which at least on that time was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. In this case, you're asking the 49ers to travel 3 time zones, play at what is the equivalent of 9 a.m. West Coast time. Actually, 10 a.m. West Coast time. But the point is that you're asking them to travel to the East Coast. They have this bevy of injuries. They just came off a game where they played prevent defense for 2 quarters, and the Lions almost came back and tied them and took them to overtime in a game last week that they dominated the first half. Remember, no Raheem Mostert, numerous injuries on defense, without their best cornerback. Mosley might not play. He's their second best cornerback. It's looking more and more like this might be a game where the Eagles' home field crowd will be rocking and rolling at full capacity, and the 49ers are not going to have the ammunition needed to beat them. As of right now, that's what it's looking like. And when it comes to injuries, the 49ers are a team that's built on 2 principles: defensive pressure and running the football. Everything else plays off of that. Their entire defense is built upon that front group of pass rushers and linebackers limiting other teams' offenses. And when you saw them start having injuries last week against the Lions, a team who has Jared Goff, who is known for his turnovers, a team whose wide receiver group and offensive line is much lesser group than the Eagles, okay? I'm not trying to be demeaning to the Lions, but the Eagles have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL, and the Lions don't. Outside of Sewell and Ragnow, the Lions' offensive line is kind of patchwork. They moved Halapuli Vaitai in the guard, for goodness sake, because they were desperate for guard play, and he doesn't look that comfortable playing guard, honestly. And your wide receivers are Tyrell Williams, Khalil Raymond, and your number 3 wide receiver is Quentin Cephas, the second-year man from Wisconsin. So it's not like the Lions have this impressive offensive powerhouse that made the 49ers bend. You could argue the Eagles' wide receiver group is better than the Lions. Their offensive line is better than the Lions. So I have to wonder, you look at what this game is lining up to be. This could be a serious win for Philadelphia. And if they start the season 2-0, there's a strong possibility that they're going to have a commanding lead in the division moving forward, because the Cowboys are going to the Chargers in Los Angeles without La'el Collins, without DeMarcus Lawrence. Huge losses. I expect the Cowboys to lose in a shootout on Sunday. And then on the flip side, tonight, Washington plays the Giants. One of those teams going 0-2. I'll give you my pick coming up in less than 40 minutes from now for that game. But so you're going to have two teams potentially 0-2, one team 1-1, and the Eagles are 2-0. And if you would have told me that before the season, I mean, I think you could have rationalized it, but how many of us would have actually believed it? Absolutely wild situation, the NFC East. As I told you guys yesterday in my article at 973ESPN.com, if you had the 973 ESPN mobile app, we've got the alert for it. The Eagles right now are tied for the second best odds in the NFC East. They were plus 340 with Washington. Dallas had the best odds. Philly and Washington plus 340. That plus 340 is looking better and better by the minute, because with the issues with the other teams in the division, everyone has a tough gauntlet of games coming up in the next month and change. And on top of all of that, don't forget, like I said, La'el Collins, you won't see him for a few weeks because of a substance abuse violation of the NFL's policies. It's going to be an interesting situation. And for all of us who thought, my opinion was I didn't think the Eagles were going to win the division, but I thought they would be a much better team than last year. Now, if these situations keep playing out, with Washington losing their quarterback, the Giants' offensive line being an abomination, makes you wonder, NFC East, could it be the Eagles for the taking? We'll get your thoughts on that throughout the hour right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can direct message the show, as always, through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And, of course, text board 609-403-0973. And, of course, you can watch the show as we are live in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN on YouTube and Twitter at 973 ESPN. If you miss any interviews with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, Game Night with Josh Hennig, we will upload them each night on the 973 ESPN YouTube channel. And you want to follow us at Twitter at 973 ESPN. Check out all the latest updates, all the news from 973 ESPN.com. We share it for you on Facebook and Twitter at 973 ESPN. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. I want to tell you, my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, I told you guys, the Eagles plus 340 to win the division. Well, there's another opportunity for you to get in on the action with FanDuel Sportsbook, because they want to get you the most out of every play, and they're giving everyone a $10 risk-free bet each week. All you have to do is bet a same-game parlay bet with 3 legs or more, and if your bet doesn't win, FanDuel will pay you back up to $10. Offers like this are just one of the many reasons I love betting football on FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app in America. There's no feeling like nailing a same-game parlay bet. So lock in your bet today on FanDuel Sportsbook and get up to $10 back if your bet doesn't win. If you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, you could also claim 30-1 odds on the biggest game this Sunday, Chiefs versus Ravens. Just sign up with the promo code Hennig for 30-1 odds on either Kansas City or Baltimore to win. That's promo code Hennig for new users exclusively on FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or play and present in New Jersey. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile and web. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll dig deeper into NFL Week 2 and your fantasy football options next. Sportsnet's Andy McNamara joins us each and every Thursday We'll ask him for the latest right here on Game Night with me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea City.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. It's week 2 of the 2021 season this Sunday, hosting the 49ers at the Link.
1st and 10, San Francisco at the 25. It's intercepted down the far sideline and in for an Eagle touchdown, Alex Singleton.
Pre-game coverage begins at noon. Maryland Mike called all the action starting at 1. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN. South Jersey's Eagles station.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's game time. Football season is in full swing, and you can catch all the NFL action at the FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. It's time to get in on all the games you love. Experience sports betting done right with live streaming games, food and beverage, self-service betting kiosks, and more. Get your game face on and score big this weekend when you bet at FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's off the boardwalk, Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Of course, tonight, Thursday, football coverage begins at 8 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Giants and Washington football team, which is the worst team name in all of sports. Joining us as is each and every Thursday to get more into the NFL schedule and give you all the news you need in fantasy football. It is Andy McNamara, and of course, Thursday's Fantasy Football Talk with Sportsnet's Andy McNamara on 97.3 ESPN, being brought to you by Jim Malamet at Green Tree Mortgage. Your best play to refinance today. What is Andy's best plays? We'll find out for him right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Andy, my friend, how are you doing today?
Josh, I'm doing good, my man. Week 2 almost underway, and you're right. For the Washington football team, at the very least, I guess it's like you know what you're getting, right? It's like a very obvious like label in a store, you know, if it's like brown rice. Well, okay, if that's the name of I know what I'm getting. Washington football team. I realize it's a football team. Not the most creative, but I don't know. In our business, isn't it like we try to be creative and use different words and not describe it? Like, what do you say if you're not going to say Washington? Oh, the whoever versus the football team. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you say it like in our job, we're talking online or on the radio or on whatever platform, I just say Washington. I don't even say the full name. Now, if I'm writing or typing it out, I just go WFT because you know it's an easy acronym. Now, according to Daniel Snyder's wife on the Adam Schefter podcast, they're considering 5 names. Hopefully, they decide one of those 5 names in the next 12 months. Because calling them the Washington football team has been one of the most ridiculous things ever. And the worst is when people who are on shows accidentally still call them the old name, because you're just like, you want to face palm your face into your hand, because it's like when people, when people keep calling Giannis Antetokounmpo Giannis. His name is Giannis. It hasn't been Giannis in like 5-6 years. We've known this for 5-6 years, but there are people who are still calling him Giannis, and their excuse is, well, I heard somebody else say it. Like, if everyone is walking off a cliff, are you following them off the cliff?
I just call him the Greek Freak. Then you're safe. Greek Freak. Greek Freak.
Well, apparently, he doesn't like the nickname either, so there you go.
You didn't like that either?
No.
Too bad. Giannis.
Just say Giannis. That's all you gotta do.
That's it.
Yeah. You don't even need to say his last name. It's like Madonna.
Thank goodness. Oh yeah, I try to avoid that. Any like difficult name, I try to like tiptoe around it. Like, and secretly, Josh, if I see a name like in like if it's preseason or training or even in college, and I see a name, I'm like, and sometimes I see, I'm like, oh man, I hope that guy doesn't make it. Like Tua, I'm like, oh, when it was like 2 years, I'm like, oh man, I hope this guy doesn't make it. And I would just have to call him Tua. His last name, it's a mouthful.
So speaking of the Thursday night game, obviously tonight is a game that has a lot of people interested from a variety of reasons. One of them being Taylor Heinicke is your starting quarterback. Fitzpatrick, he's out indefinitely. People are saying 6 to 8 weeks. I'm going to say indefinitely because anytime you have a hip issue and a potential bone bruising in the socket, that's testy. That's a mess. So what does Taylor Heinicke mean to the Washington offense?
Right. And it's like this late in Fitzpatrick's career, this isn't a 23-year-old man, right? This is a serious injury. And with all the hype, how often were we talking about, what does the arm talent of Fitzpatrick mean to stretch the field? Well, that's gone. I actually like Taylor Heinicke. I liked him last year in the playoffs. Do I think he's a franchise quarterback? No. But is he a high-end backup fill-in? Yeah, I think so, and maybe a little bit better than some of the other ones around the league. I think at least, if we're looking at it from a fantasy perspective here, Josh, we can feel comfortable that this Washington offense can still remain fantasy relevant with Heinicke in. Because we saw Terry McLaurin still put up very good numbers with just a mishmash of quarterback play last year. We saw the same with Logan Thomas, and we saw the same with Antonio Gibson. So while I wanted to see what Fitzpatrick could do and maybe take this offense to another level, I feel Heinicke can be at least serviceable. Be one of those guys that himself, you're not going to start Heinicke, but I think he can do enough to stretch that, to make that offense fantasy relevant. I will say, all of a sudden, J.D. McKissic has to re-enter the fantasy football picture because that guy was a target monster for those short-arm dink and dunkers that Washington had all of last year. So J.D. McKissic, he's on your waiver wire, you might want to grab him.
Now, if McKissic becomes more of a value, does that hurt somebody on Washington's offense?
If Curtis Samuel was in the lineup, I'd say maybe, because that would be another mouth to feed. I'm going back now. I think we have to sort of go back to how it was last year. And Antonio Gibson still got his, right? And now even more with more experience off of his nice week and entering year two. McLaurin still got his. Thomas still got his. So I feel J.D. McKissic is an add-on. I don't really see it as a negative to either. Obviously, it's going to take some looks away from somebody, but the way it played out last year didn't seem to hurt that much. So I'm not overly concerned as far as a panic mode that J.D. McKissic is going to ruin one of your guys' seasons. Maybe if you have a second or third option wide receiver that gets taken away, but for the star power, shouldn't be a big deal.
On the other side of the ball, this Saquon Barkley situation is a bit of a predicament. You know, Everybody loves him. Everybody knows what he could do. He's 100%, but he's obviously not 100%. I've heard a lot of people say, listen, you had to sit him week one. You didn't know what was going to be there. Well, it's only a few days after week one. If you're a Saquon Barkley owner in fantasy football, do you ride or die or do you go elsewhere?
Well, here's the question, Josh, because you would have had to use a first-round pick on him, right? Like at the end of the first round, hopefully, but you probably used a first-round pick. So what is your lineup looking like? Did you swing back? Like my advice to people in the draft process for this year was if you get Saquon Barkley, you better load up on depth running backs. You better, because a situation like this was predictable from week one. So who else do you have on your roster against a very good Washington defense in a short week? You might not have a better option and you'll have to ride and die with him. If you do, then maybe you look like I would go as low as this, Josh. I would go, if you have Nyheim Hines on your roster, I would want to start him this week over Saquon Barkley. That sounds insane if you just take that clip and you put it out there and people, it's like, what? For this week, I think it makes a lot of sense. If you have a higher floor option, you got to do it. Because until Saquon Barkley proves that he's back, and like you said, we know what he can be, but will he be it? And when will he? And it might come down to, Josh, that you're gonna take a week and maybe you have him on the bench out of being overly cautious, and that's the week he jumps up. But once he's back, if he's healthy, I think it's going to be smooth sailing. But we just don't know when he's going to be back.
So true. Andy McNamara joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at AndyMC81 on Twitter. Sportsnet National Fantasy Sports host, analyst, and of course NFL analyst joins us each and every week here on 97.3 ESPN. Let's hit on the other teams, the NFC East, before we get some other guys. The Eagles game to me is fascinating because if you would have asked me Monday or Tuesday, I would have been like, you know what? The Atlanta Falcons win. I knew it was going to happen. I called it. But, the 49ers are a really good football team. As the week has progressed, the 49ers defense is really banged up. Jason Verrett done for the year. Second straight day, Emmanuel Mosley is not practicing. Drake Greenlaw out for 4 to 6 weeks. He had groin/lower abdominal surgery. The 49ers are going to shuffle all their linebackers now. And Armstead, Ford, and Kinlaw all limited at practice. You could have a banged up 49ers team coming into Philadelphia with that crazy loud crowd. The first time they've been capacity sellout in 2 years. This Eagles 49ers game is going from being, hey, it's nice they're coming home to play a game, to the Eagles might actually win this game.
Yeah. Like the 49ers defense, like Josh, doesn't it seem like it's been just injury plagued forever? Like the last 2 years, serious injuries. But if you just look at the names, formidable. But like you just laid out, there are a lot of people banged up. Who's going to play how much? How does it happen mid-game? Is somebody else going to tweak something? I think the Philadelphia Eagles have a tremendous chance to win this ball game outright, and it comes down to our guy, Jalen Hurts. And funny, Josh, how when a guy does well, everybody, you're stumbling over themselves to he's really good. You don't get to do that. Josh and I were on him from day one. We were believers. Jalen Hurts is the real deal. And you know what stood out to me most from that week one that I absolutely loved? Wasn't that he rushed for 200 yards. He didn't do like a Lamar Jackson. He ran for 200 and threw for 4 times. No. That guy threw 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 27 to 35, and still was able to use his legs to run around. That's good from a real life and a fantasy football side. I think I told you last week on the show, Josh, before, I benched Dak Prescott for Jalen Hurts. And boy, after last week's game, was I sweating because Dak Prescott lit it up. And in the end, Jalen Hurts got, I think it was like 0.3 points more than Dak. So I felt good about myself. But he's there. He looked great. This is going to be a test, banged up or not. But I believe this day one, he has shown that he continues to mature, continues off of last year and being a leader of men and being the quarterback that Philly can count on. I'm very excited to see what this matchup brings against San Francisco.
The other side of it is this. We saw the Lions put up 33 on a 49ers defense that was injured and on cruise control, prevent defense in the second half. The Eagles wide receivers are better. I just read off the depth chart earlier. Khalif Raymond, Tyrell Williams, right? The offensive line for the Lions, not good. They kicked Vaitai in the guard because their guard situation is so bad. The dude was paid to be a starting tackle, but they were so desperate at guard, they kicked him in the guard. The Eagles' offensive line is better. There is a big possibility that 32 points you saw last week was not an anomaly.
I totally agree. And I don't even care what team San Francisco played. I just think this Philly offense with Jalen Hurts under it can be creative and has enough tools that you don't have to necessarily push him and you can allow Hurts to progress naturally. I like that we didn't really it just felt like a really good game plan that they had Hurts in. And look at the sprinkling that Philadelphia can do and spread things out against San Francisco, right? We know the pieces. You got the 2 tight ends. You got a nice wide receiver core. You got a good-looking backfield. So, and, of course, you have to respect Jalen Hurts, who can run. But this is what I keep coming back to, Josh. He doesn't have to run. Lamar Jackson has to run. Jalen Hurts does not have to run. He can, but he doesn't have to. I'm not crowning him a Russell Wilson yet. However, I kind of in that vein where Russell could run, but he more tries to use his speed to create plays, to keep the pass game going. Looks to pass first. That's what you want out of a franchise quarterback, and that's what I hope we see Jalen Hurts try to exploit against a banged-up 49ers defense. And yeah, like you said, like the Eagles are just quite simply put a better team than the Detroit Lions. So what does that mean for San Francisco? Now, on the San Fran side, I don't know if in any of your fantasy leagues, Josh, but Eli Mitchell, the reckless fab dollar spending. People were spending $75 to $100, all of their fab fantasy budget for the year on Eli Mitchell, a 6th-round rookie. That was wild.
And you realize that Trey Sermon's probably going to play on Sunday.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah. To me, I was like, okay, I want Eli Mitchell. Like, I think the highest I put $20 in a couple, and I obviously didn't get him. But I was like, you know what? I liked what I saw out of Eli. I'll do 20. Yeah, that's still a little rich, but I wouldn't have even been close. You're right. And it's by design, it's a committee. Now, Mostert's gone. You have JaMychal Hasty, who's vultured that one TD. We're not too worried about him. Jeff Wilson's going to come back in November-ish or something. But yeah, Trey Sermon was in the doghouse. You don't spend that type of draft capital to keep a guy in the doghouse for the year. Maybe it will be for this week, maybe. But they're going to give him a chance at some point, unless the guy is an absolute train wreck, which for all we know, Josh, maybe he is because Kyle Shanahan hates fantasy football and decided not to tell anybody that this random 6th-round rookie was going to come in and steal the show.
Well, we do know that Kyle does like to find a guy he can ride.
Yes.
He does like to, when they were in Washington, they had Alfred Morris, right? Yeah. When he first got to Atlanta, they rode Devonta Freeman until he got injured. Then they rode Tevin Coleman, right? And in San Francisco, he's seemingly been in search of a guy to ride. So yeah. I'm not saying that he can't ride Mitchell, but there's a reason why I picked up Hasty in my fantasy league, because I'm just leaving him on the bench with Tevin Coleman in case those teams, the Jets and the 49ers, actually make a decision.
Yeah, that's it. You have him sitting there and you kind of wait, right? Maybe there's another injury. Maybe he's the flavor of the month. Who knows? That's the great unknown. That's why it seemed wild that people were spending all of it after one game. Like, I get it. Running back is a true starting running back for your fantasy football team is rarish, right? If you didn't get one, that's rare. So if you can get one, sure. But like, would it surprise me if Sermon comes in and he gets 100 yards this week? It wouldn't. Or in 2 weeks, if it happens, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So really, we have to see how it plays out. But I think the biggest story for me was Deebo Samuel balling out. Like, Deebo looked phenomenal, better than Kittle. Brandon Ayuk, Shanahan said was inconsistent. So I get a lot of questions on at Andy MC81 on Twitter, Josh, about usually like every week which 49ers wide receiver. You ride Deebo Samuel till you're told otherwise. Like that's the guy right now over Ayuk or anybody else in that offense when it comes to catching the football, besides George Kittle, who's going to get his.
And let's ride through some fantasy football topics from around the league. By the way, before we get to that, Saquon Barkley officially active tonight. So he is active. He is playing, but we'll wait and see what he actually does.
In what capacity? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Really quick on the Cowboys. No Lyle Collins, out for at least 5 weeks, it looks like. And then no Michael Gallup either. Concerned with the Cowboys offense at all?
Well, I'm concerned how Ezekiel Elliott was not used. That made no sense to me. That was very concerning. Was that a one-off? Tony Pollard, he got enough touches, and the style of the way he was getting fed the ball concerned me if I was an Ezekiel Elliott fantasy owner. That worried me, but not to say they're going to give Pollard the ball 20 times, but the way he was incorporated in, that got me a little wary. I really want to see what Zeke does this week. Like why were the touches down? With Gallup being out, what that means is more touches for CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, who was, I think in PPR, he had almost 40 fantasy points. It was crazy. Blake Jarwin as well maybe gets a little bit of a bump up too. I want to see how Zeke goes. Obviously, if you drafted him, you're playing him, you put him in. But if we see another week, Josh, where that usage is down, we got to start really asking ourselves what's wrong or what's different in Dallas.
2 straight weeks now, Odell Beckham Jr. has been inactive. He's out for the Browns. So for Jarvis Landry fantasy football owners, they're loving it. For OBJ owners, they're hating the Brown situation.
Yeah, I hate to be and I told you so, guy, Josh, but I told you, avoid OBJ. I didn't know he was going to be missing week 1. He was at literal game time, like minutes before the game. So here's the other factor you got to look at. And this I had on my sportsnet.ca fantasy article and on my Fantasy Minute videos on social media. Anthony Schwartz of the Browns. He was owned on Tuesday, Josh, in 1% of Yahoo leagues. 99% availability. And I got turned on to Schwartz because my guy Eric Metcalf, Cleveland Browns great, who I've been doing some work with on my UFAFL and UFF sports platform. He told me in the preseason when we were chatting, he said, Andy, I've trained this guy in track and field. Metcalf, he just got back from Europe. He goes around with the Nike team training track and field stars. He said, I trained this kid, and he's just not a speedster. This guy can catch the football. So when Eric Metcalf says that, my ears perk up, and I'm like, okay, well, when is he going to get the opportunity? He was used. He had a 17-yard runner end around, being handed the ball, 44-yard downfield. That is the difference maker this Browns offense was really looking for, in the sense that while it's still going to be run first, defenses could kind of crowd the line a little bit because it wasn't that stretcher. We love Jarvis Landry, but a possession guy, really, right? And he's going to bull through you. You needed that guy to keep defenses and safeties honest. Schwartz is that guy. And I think you need to get him into a flex spot this week. This is a great spot to get him in, put him into a flex, and see what happens from there. And then when OBJ comes back, you park him for a little bit and see. But this is a rookie who really flashed, really impressed me. And you're facing a Houston Texans defense that can be had.
Jonnu Smith limited at practice today. So does that make Hunter Henry a must start this week?
Well, I think I want to see a couple. Let's have another day of practice. Let's see what the limited really means. If he is still going Sunday question, then absolutely. That whole offense is a little worrisome to me still with Mac Jones. I like how they operated and all that against a tough Miami defense to start the year. But yeah, if it's one or the other, you go Hunter Henry if Jonnu Smith's injured. I still like Smith overall as the main guy, but it could happen, Josh. We chatted about this, that it could just be a wash. It might not be Gronk and Hernandez. It might just be committee. And then because you still have to sprinkle in Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar. What's the running back situation going to look like? So we still have to kind of feel out what a Mac Jones run offense is in New England and what that means for fantasy.
One more for you. Josh Jacobs not practicing 2 straight days, what they're describing as a toe/ankle issue.
Ugh.
Should Jacobs owners be concerned?
Yeah, anything like that, because think about it, Josh, right? That's how you cut. Like a toe can seem silly, like, it's a toe. Well, if you're a running back, you need your toes, you need your ankles, you need to make those sharp cuts, those pivots. So yeah, I would be concerned if I'm a Kenyon Drake owner. I'd want to get him in my lineup, even if Jacobs plays, because that is screaming towards limiting his workload, right? Even if he does suit up, I would be heavy into Kenyon Drake this week.
Really quick before I let you bounce, Eric is just jumping in a little bit late in the conversation. We touched on Saquon earlier. Saquon is active tonight, but Eric wants to know the added rain being an issue in his value tonight.
Honestly, my value in Saquon Barkley tonight is not high. Rain or not. I don't care if it's the sunniest. It's just not high because we have not seen it. I need to see it. Like, we're going 2 years now, right, with coming off of injuries. And they said, the Giants, in fairness to them, said, we're going to ease him in. This should not be surprising. So the value tonight, you have to gauge the rest of your roster. I wouldn't touch him in any DraftKings, DFS plays, whatever. But in your season long, if you don't have any other option, then you got to chance it. If you do, then I would try to park Saquon Barkley if possible.
He's Andy McNamara. Give him a follow on Twitter at AndyMC81. Sportsnet Fantasy Sports Expert. NFL analyst joins us each and every week here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Andy, always appreciate the insights. We'll catch you next week, my friend.
Absolutely, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
And, of course, Andy's appearance here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN being brought to you by Jim Melamed at Green Tree Mortgage, your best play to refinance today. Proud sponsor of Fantasy Football Talk with Sportsnet Andy McNamara right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll wrap up the show coming up the other side. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
Ian Eagle here from Thursday Night Football on Westwood One. Join Tony Baselli and me as Week 2 of the NFL season begins with an NFC East matchup between the New York Giants and the Washington Football Team. Saquon Barkley returned to play in the opener from his knee injury in Week 2 last season. Now he'll try and lead the Giants in this big divisional matchup on Thursday Night Football.
Listen to Thursday Night Football on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 8 p.m.
Hey, South Jersey, football season has finally kicked off, and that means PropSwap has the best odds in the country on futures, props, and parlays. Now is the best time to get involved while the odds are high. Who will win the MVP? Who will win the championship? These odds are America's best, only found on PropSwap. Don't miss out on a money-making opportunity by heading to PropSwap.com or downloading the free PropSwap app. Join in on the fun today and start prop swapping your sports bets.
Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
At Bennett Chevrolet, your vehicle will never be worth more than it is this month. That's a fact. Bennett will pay you top dollar on the spot and will buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. No sales pressure, just top dollar for your trade. In fact, this month only, Bennett will pay you a minimum $8,000 for your trade. Let me repeat. Bennett will pay you a minimum $8,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle on our lot. No matter the condition or miles, even if your trade's a total wreck, it's worth $8,000 this month only. Imagine how much more we'll pay for a good quality trade-in. Get to Bennett Chevy and you could drive away in a newer vehicle with the same or even lower payments than you're making on your old vehicle. Plus, at Bennett, we have non-commissioned sales folks who are paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So there's never any sales pressure and never any need to negotiate. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig wrapping up the show here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of CLC. We're over on the app. We hear from Rich in Cape May who chimes in and feels the need to correct me or whatever you want to call it and says, 49ers are staying in West Virginia, no travel. Okay, yes. They're in West Virginia. They're not traveling 3 time zones. But Rich, here's the thing. If that was your biggest comment from the entire first segment, I kind of feel bad for you, man. Because we get other comments coming in, but we prioritize the 97.3 ESPN mobile app over everything else. So your message got prioritized. And the prioritized message that came into the show was about critiquing me about the 49ers travel plans. It doesn't change their injury situation. It doesn't change anything with that situation. I still like the Eagles as of right now. Don't forget my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's Casino in Atlantic City. Bet all the action in style this football season at the state-of-the-art FanDuel Sportsbook just off the boardwalk in Atlantic City at Bally's. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I am taking Washington minus 3.5 tonight versus the Giants. Thursday football, 8 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN.
Ian Eagle and Tony Baselli here from Westwood One with a preview of Thursday Night Football. Week 2 of the young NFL season begins with an NFC East matchup between the New York Giants and the Washington Football Team. Saquon Barkley returned to play in the opener from his knee injury in Week 2 last season. Now he'll try and lead the Giants in this big divisional matchup. Tony, neither of these squads can be very happy with their opening performances last week.
Both teams are coming off a loss and are hoping for a better performance after struggling to score points offensively. Daniel Jones was under constant pressure, and Ryan Fitzpatrick got knocked out early with a hip injury. We'll find out which offense can get it going and get their first win of the year.
Look forward to being with you, partner, for the Giants at Washington on Thursday Night Football.
Remember to listen to Westwood One's coverage of the NFL all season long, right here on South Jersey's home of Eagles football.
On 97.3 ESPN.